and dance on our floor.
Come and dance on our floor.
Take a step that is new.
Three's Company made Suzanne Somers a household favorite almost overnight. But the sunny sitcom, with the beachy theme song and constant misunderstandings, hid a bitter fight behind the scenes. Somers played Chrissy Snow, the sweet, breathy, and hilariously confused roommate who helped turn the show into one of television's biggest hits. Alongside John Ritter and Joyce DeWitt, she became part of a comedy trio that viewers invited into their living rooms week after week. But at the height of that success, Somers asked for something that sounded simple, to be paid like her male co-star. That request did not lead to a friendly negotiation. It led to isolation on the set, a reduced role, years of career damage, and one of the most talked about salary disputes in TV history. Before we start, drop a comment. Tell us whether you think Suzanne Somers was asking for too much or whether Hollywood punished her for knowing her value. Today, we're looking at the real reason Suzanne Somers got fired from Three's Company. America Meets Chrissy.
She had an innocence. She had a moral code. I knew what Chrissy Snow would and would not do. She'd never tell a lie. She'd never steal anybody's boyfriend. Everything was always absolutely honest with her. And I think that's what endeared her to the public, that she wasn't threatening. She might have worn those little shorts and things, but she had no idea that she looked good. And she was just not threatening to anybody.
When Three's Company premiered in 1977, its entire setup was built around confusion. Jack Tripper pretended to be gay so he could live with two women, Janet Wood and Chrissy Snow, in a Santa Monica apartment where the landlords were always suspicious and the misunderstandings never stopped. Suzanne Somers was not originally the only reason the show worked, but Chrissy quickly became one of its brightest ingredients. John Ritter brought wild physical comedy, Joyce DeWitt brought grounded timing, and Somers brought a bubbly innocence that made the jokes land without feeling mean. Chrissy could misunderstand almost anything, but Somers played her with warmth. She was not just acting foolish. She made Chrissy seem trusting, cheerful, and strangely logical in her own little world. That was harder to pull off than it looked. By the time the show became a major ratings hit, Somers was on magazine covers and being recognized everywhere. She understood that her face, her character, and her chemistry with Ritter and DeWitt were a real part of the show's value. The money gap.
It was punishment for no reason. Why? I asked for a raise. My contract was up. I did not enjoy being fired for being asked to be paid commensurate with the men who were making 10 to 15 times more than me after year 6.
At the beginning, Somers was thrilled with her pay. She later said she started at about $3,500 a week, which was a life-changing amount for an actress still trying to break through. As Three's Company grew, so did her salary. By the time of her contract fight, she was making about $30,000 an episode. That sounds huge, but the issue was not whether she was well paid compared with the average viewer. The issue was what her male co-star was making. Somers said John Ritter was earning far more, and she believed her salary should match the value she brought to the series. She and her husband, Alan Hamel, asked for $150,000 an episode, plus a share of the back end. To the studio, the request was explosive. Ritter was viewed as the central star, but Somers believed Chrissy was just as important to the show's success. In a business where male stars often received the richest deals, she was stepping into a fight much larger than one sitcom. A bad time to ask.
What I know today, because I know what I know today, what I didn't know then, is that careers are high and low. And, you know, you reach this level where it's hard to think about going any higher. And I was there. I've been there a few times. And instead of allowing yourself to crash, that's when you have to reinvent and go in a different direction.
Timing made everything worse. Around that same period, Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams had negotiated major raises for Laverne and Shirley. Network execs did not want every female star on a hit comedy demanding the same treatment. Somers later said the response from the show was harsh. She recalled being told, "Who do you think you are?" and that, quote, "John Ritter is the star." In other words, the message wasn't just no, it was know your place. Alan Hamel later believed the network wanted to make an example out of her. Laverne and Shirley could not easily be removed from Laverne and Shirley, but Chrissy Snow could be written down, replaced, or pushed aside. That's why the story is so much more than a simple contract dispute. Somers did ask for a dramatic raise, but the reaction showed how little patience the industry had for a woman who tried to use her popularity as leverage. The negotiation became a warning to other actresses before it became a public argument. Banished on her own show.
I say to John and Joyce at the end of the season before, my contract's up. I'm going to ask for big money and a piece of the back end, and if you two back me up because we have favored nations, we'll all get it. So I'll be the patsy. So what they did do was force me to finish out the year, but diminish me to a minute at the end. And I would speak to myself on the phone and go, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I know she's still sick. I wish I could be there." And I did that to finish out the season. And I would usually leave in tears.
Somers was not immediately erased from Three's Company. The 5th season had to be finished, and the producers still needed to explain Chrissy's absence without completely shocking its audience. The solution was strange and cold. Her role was reduced to short phone call scenes. Chrissy was said to be away, caring for her sick mother, and she would briefly call Jack and Janet from another location. Somers later described being brought onto the lot separately, away from the rest of the cast. She said she was escorted in, kept apart from Ritter and DeWitt, and placed on a small side set with a chair, a phone, and a lamp. For viewers, those little phone scenes may have seemed like a temporary storyline. Behind the camera, Somers saw them as punishment. She was still technically on the show, but she'd been cut off from the very comedy family that made her famous. The aftermath.
I went from being the #1 actress on television in those desired demographics to now I couldn't get an interview. Why did I do it? Here I had the world by the tail. Why did I blow it? Why did I think that I should be paid what they're paying the man? What did I do?
After Somers left, Three's Company tried to move on. Jenny Lee Harrison was brought in as Cindy Snow, Chrissy's clumsy cousin. Later, Priscilla Barnes joined as Terry Alden, a nurse who became the next regular roommate. The series continued for years, but the original magic had changed. Jack and Janet remained, but the trio that had launched the show was gone. For Somers, the damage was immediate and personal. She said she could not get interviews and was treated as difficult. The old label was greedy, and in television that word could follow an actress around for years. She'd gone from one of TV's most recognizable women to someone many producers did not want to touch. But Somers eventually found a new route. She performed in Las Vegas, returned to sitcom success with Step by Step, and built a business career that made her famous all over again. The Thigh Master alone turned her into a home shopping force. In the end, she was not fired because Chrissy stopped working. She was fired because she asked to be paid like someone the show could not afford to lose. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you think Suzanne Somers' request was a bold stand for fairness, or do you think the size of the raise gave the network an excuse to push her out? Let us know in the comments section below.